Well, hello, friends, and welcome to From Busy to Rich, the podcast designed to inspire advisors to increase their profitability for them and quality of life for themselves and those they serve. With me, as always, Wes Young, and today we're going to be continuing our conversation and re-engaging on this concept around baking a cake or building a company. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Wes. Let's talk about which part of the recipe we're going to be engaging on today.
Yeah, so we've been in this series, and we did have a couple guests on in between, so to kind of bounce out of the series, but it was all very relatable to the series. So we got two more of these. We got the one we're doing this week, and then we'll have one more the following week on this idea of, and it really stems around the Elon Musk quote, and that if you're trying to create a company, it's like baking a cake. You have to have all the right ingredients in the right proportions at the right time for the cake you want to bake. And so we've observed through, teaching at this point thousands of advisors and observing their practices that while you may want to bake a different kind of cake, there are some core ingredients that are universal across the board. And so we've just been going through those things like vision development and execution, things like having a high value financial planning process, and the Mind Vault method, all these things that are critical to just efficiency and running a great practice and freeing you up for your highest and best use. So today we're going to be diving into the ingredient of growing a peak performance team. There's a great Vince Lombardi quote. He says, "Individual commitment to a group effort. That's what makes a team work. A company, a society work, a civilization work." And I think it's so true because it's this constant alignment and then realignment of the use of your human capital to the vision that you really care about. And one of the things that we found is one tool that we're going to make available to everybody is you should fill out an org chart. So we have a template org chart that is a part of all the thinking we do every time we're aligning and realigning. And this one that they'll have available to them is going to be a very basic one. So it's going to have at the very top these kind of two categories with an advisor or with a split down the middle of roles that need to exist. And even if you're not playing that role well, it's still being played. So clearly you have a CEO, and even if you're a solo practitioner, you are the CEO. You then have a lead advisor, and that lead advisor could have a project manager, or you are the project manager for the clients that you're doing work with. Then you can have a paraplanner, or you are the paraplanner. And we can talk through some of these in a second. Executive assistant, director of service and new business, because hopefully all these things you're doing lead to outcomes that you need to service, you need to put in place business and service that business. And then if you're doing investment work, director of AUM. And then last but not least, some kind of financial controller in human resources. So this will be very clear to everybody as we do it. And the dividing line, the dotted dividing line on this is kind of like on the right side, you've got the CEO. Then under that, you've got the lead advisor, project manager. These are primarily roles that are going to be relationship cultivation, guiding clients through new and existing relationships, and then vision and direction. So those are more client facing, more having meetings, coming up with ideas, getting new clients, that sort of thing. Then all those other roles I mentioned, paraplanner, executive assistant, director of new service and new business, financial controller and human resources, and director of AUM, all those fall on like the strategy, logistics, execution, research, administration, and fulfillment. So when I think about this, here's what I want everybody to do. You go in and you fill in. If it's just you're a solo practitioner, you write your name in every one of those boxes. And because that you are all those things right now. If you got one person that's helping you with some of these activities that maybe they're doing applications for you and service work and new business, maybe they're also like playing the executive assistant role, scheduling meetings for you, making sure that the things are taken care of that need to be done for you outside of client meetings and prepping for meetings. Then that's that executive assistant. Paraplanner, that's going to be that they're the ones kind of putting all the data into whatever system you use to like all the clients' financial information, the future that they want to move towards, and they're like in our case, Planning Shepherd. They're inputting all that into Planning Shepherd, and they're producing outcomes and reports so that our project manager and lead advisor can have a great meeting. Now, again, in the beginning, my first day, I did all those things. A lot of them really poorly, and I certainly was bent towards some far more than others. But if you start out by doing that, here's what it helps you do. It helps you understand, all right, how do I make my next big jump? And what I'd love to revisit with you, Justin, you remember the episode that we spent time talking about the difference between bamboo and bicycle growth?
Mm-hmm.
You know, the just to recap for our audience, two types of growth we think about, and you need both if you're going to, grow your business to what it's capable of. Some things are like adding another gear to a bicycle. And the analogy we use is, let's say you're a 1-speed bicycle and you're riding that bicycle. In the beginning, effort, like your own just hard work, grit, will help you get that bicycle moving faster, right? You pedal faster, use more muscle, kind of really just do more, right? Work harder. And then eventually you get to a place where you just can't pedal at 1 speed any faster. You can't go any further. But there is a massive 10x jump that happens if you add a second gear to that bicycle. It can be, in fact, a 10x type of jump. And the way you think about it is an executive assistant and probably combined director of service and new business. At first, they play both roles. That is a 10x jump if it's a healthy gear that you add. Now, because there's a couple things you got to think about to do it. One is, if you're adding a gear and you don't have something to utilize that gear, like you don't have good systems and processes, you're just dumping and running. You don't have, regular check-in meetings, which we're going to talk about in next week's session as far as how you structure your calendar. You could have one and they're labeled that, but you're just not getting the full benefit from it. We have had people that have come into our organization that were in other organizations, and these were amazing people. And they immediately made massive impact. And they were the same person in the other organization. The problem was that person did not know how to ride a 2-speed. They just had because they'd done it so long one way. And so you've got to have a mechanism to change gears. You have to learn how to interact when there's more than just you in the organization. The other thing is, you got to make sure the gear has all its teeth, right? I mean, probably both physically and figuratively. Because you can go hire somebody and name them this. You could say, hey, you're going to be my director of service and new business. And also you'll have an executive assistant role for me. And I have Kara, who's our director of service and new business, who's been in the business almost 2 decades. And she's absolutely fantastic at her role and what she does. And you could have someone that has that same title. And we've seen this in organizations. Well, I have one of those, Wes. And I'm like, okay, let's see. How long have they been in the business? Well, this is their first job in this role. Are they licensed? No. Have they ever processed business? No. So what you hired is a project that's missing a bunch of teeth that you need for it to actually function well. So bicycle growth is this. It is because bicycle will instantly make you more productive if you hire a gear. If you add a gear that has all its teeth. There are some things that you'll do that are bamboo. And bamboo, if you're not familiar with how bamboo grows, bamboo is fascinating. So some kinds of bamboo, what happens is the first 3 years, there's almost no visible growth. All you see is like these little shoots that pop up, and there is stuff taking place. It's just all happening underneath the surface. They're building a foundation and an interconnected foundation together. But then when it does start growing, in that next year, it'll grow. In that 4th year, it will grow like 1.5 inches an hour in some cases. Like you can literally watch it grow. And it shoots up to enormous heights all of the sudden, it seems like. So some things we add, like whenever Cody came into our organization, he had industry experience, of course, but he was not as comfortable or familiar with our processes and procedures. And we hired Cody as a paraplanner project manager. And so Cody would be in all my meetings. Cody would be able to take the meeting notes. He was able to take a bunch of stuff off my plate because he did think like an advisor. He just wasn't as used to all the conversations that we were having yet. And so what it did, it did add, I would say, to some extent, like bicycle growth, in that, hey, this helped me be more productive because I was doing less of these other things that one, it drained me of energy, and I just, I could do it. I could muster the strength to do it, and I could do it well. It just was not the highest and best use for me to add 10x to our organization. But as a byproduct, there was a bamboo feature to this as well, because about a year and a half in, Cody began to lead large portions of the meeting. And then Cody began to lead the entire parts of meetings that we were having. And eventually, I didn't need to go to all the meetings. So that was a 10x jump, but it was bamboo to get there from the time we hired him. So we were like working on both at the same time. So what you got to ask yourself, and I'm interested in your feedback on this, Justin, is based on where you are right now and your current makeup, what is my bicycle growth that's going to lead to 10x? What would be an immediate hire, and what do they need to look like? What prerequisites do they need to come with in order for them to add instant value in the role that I'm hiring them for? Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I love this as an exercise because the reality is whether it's just you or you already have a team, it forces you to step back and see, what are all the real components that go into this industry, this business, and the practice. Even if you're doing it all, you start to see like there really is a ton of different roles, and it creates a vision, in my opinion, or helps expand the vision of what's possible for your practice and how
Yeah.
you can fit into that and who you would want for the different roles. Or if you already have some people, where are opportunities even to shift people, because that can create a massive increase in productivity or the results, because maybe they're not in the right role. Or who do we need to hire next? And so for me, like I think back to my time in the military and special forces. There's a big difference when like we have to go do an operation, or we're doing a training mission, whatever it was, when you get augmented by another team, some members to your team to go then do what you need to do. And so for us was direct action, like kicking the door and we're going and clearing the house, whatever that objective was. It's big immediate return, and there's not a lot of immediate input as far as the requirements from us, just a little bit of back and forth of getting on the same page of how we're going to do it. But it's not a long-term solution. Like it gives us an immediate hit, but beyond that, versus somebody coming right out of the special forces course that has no experience, we'd have to stop our training. Everybody'd have to go back to the very basic fundamentals and then build up from there. But the impact was substantial. That one person created a 10, 20, even 30 times return because of what one person on a 10-man team or a 12-man team could do from a results standpoint. So I think stepping back and seeing like, how can you do it? And sometimes it may just be some technology or a license that comes in there as well in our industry, right? Like going from just doing fixed income stuff and insurance, and then adding Series 7, these other capabilities, start managing money, like that can be a substantial growth and a pretty quick hit. But then you have to come in and say, what's the bamboo structure that's going to come in behind that to support our new growth?
Yeah. So you made me think of something that I wanted to point out that's we see as a bicycle growth right now, adding another gear to a one speed right now, is using note-taking AI. And so as an example, maybe you're hiring a director of service and new business, and you don't have a project manager or a paraplanner that can sit in on your meetings yet. But there are some great like AI is built for financial services, financial professionals, and it can, if you do Zoom meetings, they can take notes in your Zoom. They don't record the meeting; they just take notes. And other than you leaving and trying to remember everything or writing as you're carrying on this conversation with the client, one of them we like a lot right now is called Zox, Zocks. And Zox, I was blown away the first time I had Zox join one of my meetings. Now you can have it on your phone, and it can do this on location meetings as well. Zoom is going to automatically ask if you want it to join, so you can do a multitude of ways. But Zox, when I got off that meeting, it had captured not just here's the stuff we talked about. It captured the important things in a very organized method, and then it even came up with like summary of the key things from the meeting and all these different details, and put them in categories in all these right places. If you use that is another gear. Like you said, sometimes it's not a person, it's a technology to help you get to the next level. Because again, if you're a lead advisor, I mean, again, I don't think you go out and hire a project manager if you don't have a director of service and new business. I think you hire that director of service and new business, and an executive assistant first, and then augment with these technologies to make your job easier. So, I think those are great examples. Any other thoughts on that?
No, I think the same things that what I was talking about in special forces apply to us is in this industry. Some of that bicycle growth could be partnerships in different ways with, I know I've seen advisors share servicing agents, things like that are already doing it. You don't have to equip anything, but now you've got a shared cost and capability there that's going
Yeah,
to add immediate growth while you build out somebody internally. Again, that's the bamboo in my mind is it's going to take some time investment. There may
yeah,
be in certain areas feel like a drop or restriction of capability because of what it's going to give you in the long term.
sure.
Right? But I think there's plenty of other or bicycle options to add something that are quick increases with far less of a front end commitment that
Yeah,
advisors are just missing. And because they don't see that, and then they see the bamboo, I feel like they're just not willing to make the jump. Right? Like, oh,
right.
I pay somebody X amount for a year. Well, you don't have to pay the full salary. We talk about this all the time. You
Yeah,
don't have to pay
that's
the full
right.
salary day one,
That's
right?
right. 2
Just
weeks
that
at a
first
time.
month.
That's right. Yeah, and one other thought is if you haven't been following along with this series, a couple podcasts ago, we talked about the Mind Vault method, which is where again, this is another game changer, especially for if you have 50 people in your practice or if it's you, is to use like Loom, which is a way for you to record a video in your screen of you, like when you are prepared for a meeting, when you've taken the hour or whatever it took to get your head around this client and have all the things you're going to show, and that meeting's next week, go ahead and Loom capture that, and you capture your mind at its best and put it in the vault. And that way, the next week before the meeting, you watch that again. You're back in it because you will have prepared for 8 other meetings, right? So that's another thing you can do. That still is important if you have a bunch of people, because again, people forget and time steals from our minds. But if you put your mind in the vault, you don't have that. So go back and listen to that one. I would say a tool that I would recommend for this that you can get on our website, wesyounglive.com. We'll also link to it in the show notes, is our Triple T tool. It's time talent transformation tool. And what this tool does is we've outlined every aspect of running a holistic financial planning business, and back office, to meeting with clients, to capturing data, to preparing for meetings, all these things, and go down that list and rank it 10, 5, 1. And is this the highest and best use? So a client meeting for me, engaging in client meetings, leading client meetings would be a 10, because it is one of the highest value things I can do for our organization. Justin, for you, leading a client meeting is one of the highest value things you can do to our organization and our clients. Um, a 5 is really important to be done. So like capturing the notes is really important that's done, and figuring out tasks that need to be done from that, and who's going to do that, and all that needs to be done. It's a 5 for me and it's a 5 for you, because it's important to be done well, and we'll do it if we have to, but it'd be much better if we could get somebody else that could play that role. Could be a note-taking AI that's going to help a lot with that. That's going to take a lot of that off your plate. Could also be a person eventually that sits in your meeting, so that can take those notes and then augment them into the to-dos and what's next. But either way, if it's a 5, it's important to be done, but it's not necessarily the best, highest use for you to do it. And then 1s, you just don't even need to do at all. So what will emerge from this is where you need to hire your next person. And again, it's like if I have a bunch of 5s and it has to do with, because after I after the client agreed to the strategy we wanted to execute, I then got the paper. I got the electronic paperwork filled out correctly, sent it to the client for signature. Got it back, made sure the money got transferred, made sure the client had their medical scheduled, made sure the client answered any questions from about their doctors, their APSs they needed to answer, and eventually make sure the delivery went through, and then we got everything back and we coordinated payment with the clients. All those are really important, but for a lead advisor, they are a 5. They're important, but it's not important you do those. That's why we say just lean into what we want next. So use that Triple T tool, use this sample org chart that we're going to have available in the show notes, and just play with some of this stuff and dream a little bit and think about what can I do to get like me doing my highest and best use more often.
Yeah, you're definitely giving me some flashbacks there with all those servicing tasks. Listing those out. Media flashbacks. So thankful for the team that we have.
Absolutely.
So I really hope you've enjoyed this so far. I do want to one more question, Wes, because I know we've pitched or proposed the discussion around the difference in types of hires, the how to define the right roles that are next in the highest and best use of time and capital. You guys have developed a pretty unique process in identifying people that are going to be a good fit. Having gone through it myself, I can
Yeah.
speak to this. Like if we were dating, we had the longest dating period, right, from a hiring standpoint before we got engaged. So I'd say real quick, let's talk about that, and then we'll talk about what's coming up next on our next.
Yeah. Yeah. So the good news for all of you is we have just a very clinical video of the steps we take in order to identify, vet, and ultimately onboard a new person for whatever role that might be. And it's Stephanie and Kara kind of going through these things that we think about, also setting that person up for the like, what does success look like in a month, 2 months, 4 months, a year, and it shows all the tools we use to vet them. It breaks all that down. It's a very good example of this. So while we can't necessarily go through all those steps here today, we're going to make it available to you. We'll put a link in the show notes again, where you can, for a period of time, access that video and see more about that. Now we iterate on this all the time. We teach this in Transform as one of our key tenets. So again, I would say join Transform. You're going to learn a bunch of new stuff and have our most up-to-date tools. But in the meantime, go check out that, and it should help you. One little sample that I would give here is one of the best interview like conversation questions you can have. Once you've created your job description, you've got a candidate that would fit that. Which, by the way, I think one of the best questions you can ask when you're saying, "Hey, who's available for here?" is or don't think, "How do I go find people?" Think, "Who do I know that's already in my network of help that could help me find people?" And that's as simple as making a list of people that are, in the industry. The companies that we do business with on a regular basis, whether they're financial institutions that are some of the money managers we like to use, or insurance companies, we go to the people there and say, "Hey, here's what we're looking for. Here's the kind of our makeup of the DNA of our company," and they know us. Is there anybody that comes to mind, or could you continue to think about who might be available out there? Because again, you can use all these, Indeed and all these services, and we've done that, and we've got people from it. By far, though, most of our hires have come from our existing network of help, and they come from the most unlikely places and unlikely people that were like, you know what? You put it in their mind, they might not even have anybody right then, but like a week later, they're like, "Hey, I'm sending you a person I think may be good." And so that's just one to do there. But once you've then kind of used the Colby, use the working genius to say, would they like this role and exist in it well? Then the next step is like you're having this conversation with them. But I always love to do this, Justin, say, "Hey, so tell me, this is kind of this role that you'd be in. Tell me about what you've done. Like, tell me about how you've operated in this role in other places." And it's amazing what you find out. You kind of find out, one, what are they used to doing? What systems or absence of them? Like, it's amazing to me. Some people are really good people, and the advisor, as I said earlier, was like, they didn't really work out. Things weren't going well. Well, they weren't going well because there was no process. There was no cadence of operation, which we'll talk about next week. You all of a sudden learn, they were like, here's what I did. And what didn't you like about that role? What would you not want to do again? And these kind of things you find out about people, especially if they give you clear answers. One, are they willing to be clear with you? Because there's always interview answers, right? That you're like, yeah, man, that's a soft answer, and it's not really telling me anything. But you find out somebody like, yeah, listen, I hated that my advisor constantly, we said we were going to have a Monday meeting and a Tuesday meeting or daily check-in meetings maybe. And he always blew them off. And he's like, well, I'll get to that. And he never did meeting notes. And things were, the to-dos that we had were haphazard. And so I want clarity and structure. And so I don't want to operate with an advisor that won't honor a system or a process. I'm like, great. We have great systems and processes. So ask them about what they've done. And anybody you're hiring for something, if they've not done something that remotely gives you an idea that, hey, they can dance in this role pretty well, probably just, you don't want a project. We have interns that from time to time we will allow to work for us for, short periods of time. And we find out when they're working for us, like they're more bamboo, right? I guess they could be bicycle in the sense that they're there to kind of take all the stuff off the plate of the person that they're interning for in our organization. But then you also kind of find out about what their potential is. And you're like, hey, this one we'd love to keep. Like this one can stay on after just doing these, administrative things with no background in our business. They actually have a capacity to learn, get better, offer new ideas that may even help us move down the road. So, there are times where you bring somebody in with no experience. It just can't be your first. If it's your first hire and you have to teach them, they know nothing about insurance, it's not a good deal.
Love it. So again, hopefully you all enjoyed that. Please go check out the show notes. We're going to include the org chart, the link to the Triple T tool, and the video about the hiring process and the considerations. These are a way of doing things. There's plenty of ways, but for us, we found these work very, very well. So at a minimum, check them out. If you are either thinking about starting to integrate this or moving this direction, or maybe you've already done it and you're trying to see how do I add some different capability. These are tools to help accelerate your thinking to get you to a place where you can focus on the creative, visionary aspects of your job, and then defining and really actionable steps of what you can do next to create this kind of growth. So go check it out, and we'll see you guys next time.